Greetings! We're PilkingtonProps and we're here to introduce you to our new puppet, Ash. I'm really excited to show you some of the design process, showing how we designed and printed the puppet, in case you guys are interested in building one yourselves. And if you like the rest of our content, please consider subscribing because it really helps us out. Let's get on with the video! So, as a jumping off point, I knew that this model would require a lot of niche movement and linkages that would interact with each other. To design them, I hopped into MotionGen, and I'll bring a picture of the model that I want to build off. I can then base my model off the anatomy that's within this picture. Then initially, I sketch out the joints alongside the bone structure of the bird that I'm trying to design. After that, I actually then sort of stretch out the model and see where I actually need the joints to sit so that they move logically with my hand. So here you can see me drawing out the finger. So I then add a rotary actuator per joint just to simulate a finger closing. This process is mostly just trial and error. So I'll just test different motions, see how they work and whether they close in sort of roughly the right way. Here you can see the first SketchUp that I did where clearly isn't moving correctly. Then eventually through trial and error, I found a motion that works.
This is the original sketch for the wing, which I then eventually scrapped for a much simpler solution.
Once I've moved on and I've built the model in MotionGen, I bring those sketches into Maya and do a 3D mock-up of the sketch. I used a socketed joint system to build a little bit of stability around each joint, and then through there I run a bead of filament as the rotary axis.
Here I've designed a system where you can run a cable from the end of the toe right up to the top of the foot, which allows for the toes to grab as the foot collapses.
To move up a little bit, then this is the body that I built up. This one works fairly similarly. It allows for a cable to be pulled from the top by the middle finger, then it opens up both of the wings. Each wing has these two separate hooks, and what they do is they allow me to actually have an elastic band that allows the wings to snap shut. Moving up to the head, this is sort of individually the most complex mechanism. It has three different functions. One is to blink the eyes, one is to open the jaw, and one is to do like a head flare. The jaw is the simplest mechanism. It just rotates around an axis as I pull the trigger on my finger. Here you can see a cross section now of the model where as this centerpiece moves up with that, then the other two pieces are pulled forwards using fishing line that goes from one to another and to the next. Then there's the more complex mechanism, which is the eye blink. In itself, it's very similar to the jaw, is that it's got elastic that snaps it open and it just pivots around an axis, but I needed to move the motion from the eyelid to somewhere else, and for this I modelled in a tube on the inside of the head that routes through the body and then comes up through the thumb piece. This mechanism allows for sort of modular adjustment of where the eyes actually sit in a resting position. Once everything is modelled, I bring everything into a slicer software and I basically just allow Orca Slicer to generate automatic tree supports on everything because it's just pretty solid. Now once I have the model sliced, then I can show you as I raise the layer height, you can see on the inside here where this tube lies and how it gets routed up and through the body. If I zoom in here for you, then you'll see that as we get right to the top, it kind of curves up around through the eyebrow and ends just above the eye there. Once everything's done, we slam it into the printer and let the printer work its magic. First we print all the parts and remove them off the print beds. Then we snap all the pieces off and clean up all the supports, making sure that we don't lose any pieces on the way. Once that's all set, then I make sure that each printed piece moves correctly. Then for the axes that have to actually rotate, we move filament through that rotation point, melt it so that it sits flat on the outside of each piece, and then we move on to paint the eyes and any other surface details that we want. I've got the eyelid here printed. That needs to be slot in from the inside of the model, but first I need to take this thread of fishing line and I have to thread it through the tube that runs inside the body and then fish it out on the other side. So that's the build. As we started on the feet in the digital overview, I'm going to show you them first here. They're also the most interesting and complex. In this case, as you saw earlier, then I have these cables running through the inside here, and then inside the printed part, they then come out through this hole, in through this hole, and get tied off here. Once you have all this set, we have elastic bands on the top side, which helps it just snap back into open, but this allows for the open-close mechanism on the feet. There. So when you've got the two on you, this feels very, very natural and fun for people to interact with. To quickly go through the explanation on these parts, then on the inside here, I've used the hooks that I mentioned earlier to put elastic through and make sure that the wings kind of hold at least somewhat closed. Once this is on, then you see there's a cable that runs from each wing here, runs out the side there, and I slip it onto my finger with a nubbin, and by pulling back on my finger, I'm able to open and flap the wings like that. These two pieces, you have your dominant hand set. It's not designed for right-handed or left-handed use. Go. There. So that's very cool. But the head, as I mentioned, is the most complicated. There's the jaw trigger, like that. You have to kind of scoop your finger underneath to reach the head flare, but it comes out looking quite fun. And the blink is via this more accessible trigger. And okay, so once you've got all of these parts together, then you've got the character. One more thing in the design is that we actually made a conscious decision to maintain the separation between the head and the body. By maintaining the separation, I feel like I can really sort of play around with the dimensions of the character to give it more intense expressions in the same way as you'll see in animation. The animation term I think is squash and stretch. It allows you to sort of animate the character in an even more exaggerated way. So when you have a character like this that has like relatively realistic movement and you want people to like really engage with it, then it's just nice to have this sort of flexibility of flying away and splitting the body from the head. During the digital or practical design process, then you always kind of have a character in mind for like, who is this creature that you're creating? It's never really until you've actually like made it, you have it in your hands in front of you, and then the character takes on a life of its own. I'm super excited to see who he is. I think he's definitely cheeky and playful in kind of like a crowy kind of way. So yeah, that's a really good start to work from. Then we'll see how mischievous or how cheeky he actually ends up being. Let us know that you like Ash and our videos by hitting the subscribe button and the like key that is somewhere down here. Ash, are you going to show us where it is? No, one of those places. If you just there. Come on, Ash, you'll find it eventually. There. Maybe that one here? No? No, wait. Is it? Sorry guys, he has no idea. Wherever it is, hit the like button for me, and we'll see you next time. Okay. Thank you!